My name is Paul Anthony from Bespoke Unit.
I'm Rob Gagner with Boveda.
And today we're going to be exploring what is relative humidity. So this is somewhat of a, for some people, a conceptual concept. You see it on the news and the weather reports. It's going to be high humidity today. It's going to feel really, really hot, all that kind of good stuff. But really, what is relative humidity? And this is something I need to brush up on. So, Rob, why don't you help us with this?
Sounds good. I'm going to do this as best I can and as simply as possible. But before we talk about relative humidity, we definitely have to understand basically an interchangeable word, sort of, moisture content or water activity. So like every organic product has a moisture content or a water activity to it. And that's exactly what we use at Boveda. We have a meter that actually measures that. And then that's when we know like this particular cigar would like to be kept at 65% or 69%. We can actually measure it. It's been used in science for years, from food grade packaging all the way up to, in the lab for testing actual organic products.
So when you say like a cigar likes to sit at 65, why would it like to sit at 65? Smoking experience, storing experience, what kind of factors?
Particularly what we're looking for is if this cigar tastes really good and smokes really well, and we snipped it before we smoked it and put it inside the water activity meter and it read 65, then that's the ideal rate. Now, if we did that and it was at 62 and it was just harsh and it hit the back of our throat and it was really, really unpleasant to smoke, then we want to bring it back up to maybe like a 65 or a 69 and then smoke that cigar again. This is where it performs best, done. That's the relative humidity level that we want to keep it at.
Okay, and most cigars we want to typically store a relative humidity between what point and what point?
Typically, I like to keep mine between 65 and 70, but some, cigars perform really well below below 65 and between 60.
I think an interesting thing we were talking about off camera to get ready for this video, you were telling me the moisture content in like a carrot or celery, just to kind of juxtapose between what a cigar is and what some fresh produce you may be familiar with is.
Yeah, so we measured a carrot the other day and we snipped it, put it inside the water activity meter, and it came out at 99%. So those heavy produce products that have a lot of water in them, like celery and carrots, and even lettuce has some high points to it, they're just mainly all water. And everything has a certain amount of water in it. And that's exactly what we're measuring with this moisture content or water activity. So if we understand that every product, especially organic products like this, have a specific amount of water that it likes to hang on to, then we can talk about relative humidity. Because relative humidity is simply just the amount of water vapor that's in the air that comes in contact with our organic products.
Okay. And so if the relative humidity outside, so just say in this acrylic humidor we have here, and we have 65% relative humidity Boveda packs, what you're saying is that the moisture in that humidor is at 65%, and effectively what's going to happen is that the cigar basically comes in equilibrium with the moisture content within the air itself.
Exactly. So the cigar is pulling the moisture out of the air, and the Boveda pack is simply pushing moisture into the air. The two are kind of, not related. It's just the fact that we're putting them together. That's when it becomes important. And actually, cigars do it in a way that sometimes, I've had a cigar at 62%, and it took me 4.5 weeks and an acrylic humidor like this to bring it up to 69. So it is, with our product, it is a slower process to come to equilibrium, to make sure that everything flushes out at that relative humidity that's printed on the pack. So I don't ever really get afraid of bringing like dry cigars up with the Boveda product, because ultimately I know the cigar is only going to call for moisture out of the atmosphere in kind of its own time frame. And that time frame may be 4 weeks, and maybe 6 weeks, and maybe 8. But
so if you try and force that process, you can potentially, I've had it happen to me before I exclusively use Boveda products. You can like split the wrapper, you can have like bulging, or even when you smoke it, that excess moisture in the cigar can kind of make it become bulbous and split as well, and it leads to a difficult smoking experience and an unenjoyable one if you're dealing with wrapper damage, you know, different flavor profiles, etc. So, okay, so now we've kind of covered what RH is and how, you know, Boveda in particular, you know, pushes moisture into the air and then goes into the cigars. Like, how, I suppose the next question is, how does temperature affect RH?
Yeah, so, and that's a really good point. The Boveda pack itself, because it is using salt as its primary vehicle for hanging on to moisture and then releasing it, it's going to adjust, because obviously that more humid air, or sorry, that more warm air can hold more humidity, and that colder air holds less humidity. So at the end of the day, it's one of these things where ideally Boveda is going to adjust, but there are certain situations where, heck, it got too warm, there was a little bit too much moisture in the air, and all of a sudden you can start seeing white spots on your cigars.
Wait a minute, it's not blue, is it? No, but like, I suppose in like real life, so we're in Philadelphia right now, it's just the tail end of the summer, it's 80 degrees outside and it's humid, you know, it's sticky out, so you're saying like that warmer air can retain a lot more moisture, and then, you know, maybe in February, March time when it's 20 degrees outside and it's cold and people get dry, cracked skin, it's because that very cold air can't retain moisture. And we're talking about the same things even with less extreme temperature changes.
Yeah, the Boveda pack is always inside like an airtight container or enclosed container, going to be pushing moisture into that air, so it's going to come to equilibrium. It's just a situation where once you change those temperatures really quickly, things can kind of fluctuate real quick before the Boveda pack can actually come to equilibrium with what's going on temperature-wise. So it's best to try to keep steady temperature as much as possible. Sure.
I know in my particular situation with storing a large amount of cigars, I have roughly over 1,000 in the basement. In the summer it sits at a really nice 65, and in the winter it's probably going to drop down to around 40 degrees, and that's fine because I have Boveda in there, and it's going to slowly go down to that point over a few months. The Boveda is going to be able to react to that steady decrease in temperature and then change the relative humidity, the RH, within those airtight containers, and then next summer, as the temperature climbs up again, the Boveda is going to be able to react. But it's not going to be able to do so from one day to the next. It's going to be a gradual up and down. So, okay, great. So just to quickly round off, what kind of relative humidities does Boveda offer for people?
We have 6 different levels and primarily 5 different ones for tobacco. We have from 62, 65, 69 for your airtight humidors, and then 72 and 75 for wood desktop humidors. And then 84 obviously for seasoning the moisture level of the wood for any desktop humidor.
Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot for your time and expertise on that one, Rob. Please check out the links below because we have a plethora of other cigar tips and tricks and information where you can actually put this relative humidity knowledge into practice. So as always, please comment with any questions you may have, like the video and subscribe to the Bespoke Unit channel. My name's Paul Anthony, and I'll see you next time.